What's up, everyone, and welcome back for one last time, for now, to Christmas. Here we are. We've arrived. We had the 12 days of Christmas, and as they say, all good things, etc. Last time we looked more broadly at the 12 days of Christmas. This time we're going to look more specifically at one particular day within those 12. You can probably guess from the picture, New Year's Eve. As pretty much every country that uses the Gregorian calendar marks the turning of the year at the December 31st, January 1st boundary, pretty much every country has their own New Year's traditions at that time. It would take way too long to enumerate every country's New Year traditions, but a lot of them involve fireworks, something dropping at the countdown, ringing bells, eating foods that are considered lucky. Me personally, growing up as I did in the American South, our traditional New Year's meal was black-eyed peas and collard greens with ham hock or hog jowl or something, usually with the explanation that the greens and beans represent the bills and coins of the fortune you will hopefully accumulate in the coming year. Most traditions have something to do with trying to bring luck in the new year, right? In much of Europe, New Year's Eve is known as Sylvester because December 31st is the feast day of Saint Sylvester, who was a pope from the 4th century, who's supposed to have been the one who was responsible for the conversion of the Roman Emperor Constantine. Common symbols of good luck for the new year in several European countries include pigs because they are fat and happy. Common luck symbols like four-leaf clovers and horseshoes. Those make sense to Americans, I think, as luck symbols. Coins representing wealth, of course. And then this guy right here, the flyagaric mushroom, the Amanita muscaria, known in Germany as the Glückspilz. Glückspilz, the lucky mushroom. You can see them here enjoying nice hot beverages in this photo as well. Also beetles for a reason I can't remember that I definitely looked up in the past but do not recall. Yeah, these are all common symbols. You'll see a lot of these on vintage New Year's cards from Germany. And even today, a common thing you'll see at Christmas markets and around in Germany at Christmas time are little marzipan pigs. They're a common little treat for this time of the year. You might eat those on New Year's Eve or right at midnight even to bring you luck. And of course, actual pork dishes are common around the world as well. Maybe not necessarily tied directly to the idea that pigs are a sign of good luck, but generally, sure. Yeah, it's not impossible that you might see somebody out on New Year's Eve taking a pig for a walk, and if you get a chance to pet a pig, you should take it. Why not? I mean, that just in general, not even just at New Year's. If you get a chance to pet a pig, you should take it. Pigs are cool. Another common symbol of luck at New Year's is this guy, the chimney sweep. Just like good old Bert from Mary Poppins. Yeah, if a chimney sweep can be the first person to enter your house after midnight on the new year, that's about as lucky as you can get. In fact, a lot of countries, especially in the British Isles and especially Scotland, there's a tradition about your luck for the year being tied to the first person to enter your house. In Scotland, this person is called the first footer, and it's such an important tradition that there are even professional first footers, people you can hire to be the first person to come see you after midnight, because the kind of person that they are determines the kind of luck that you're going to get. So the ideal person is a dark-haired young man bearing symbolically significant gifts, like you can see here, whiskey, and probably in here he's got what's called a black bun. It's a kind of a fruit cake, or maybe he's got coal in there. I don't know. Obviously he's authentically Scottish. you can see. Also, he's very handsome. I don't know if that helps. Probably it does. Um, Unlucky examples of first footers would be any woman. Sorry, women, you are bad luck. Redheads, or people who come empty-handed. If they don't come bearing gifts, that's a sign that the year will not be particularly bountiful for you. But you know, in a lot of places, the best you could have is a chimney sweep. I guess if the chimney sweep was also dark-haired and tall and young and handsome. If this guy could clean your chimney, I guess you'd be set. In Spanish-speaking countries, a common New Year's tradition is called Las 12 Uvas de la Suerte, the 12 grapes of luck. You can see these are laid out on a special little plate, all counted out, 3, 6, 9, 12. 12 grapes ready to go. The custom is as the clock bell tolls 12 at midnight on New Year's Eve, for each strike of the bell, you try to eat one grape. If you actually try this out, it might be difficult to do, but that's the custom and you try to do it. And the idea is for each grape that you eat, you get a wish, or else they represent the 12 months of the year, and you get a lucky month, a good, bountiful, happy month for every grape eaten. So that's a common one. But besides these luck traditions, in some countries, New Year's is the main occasion for gift giving rather than Christmas or St. Nicholas Day like we've seen before. Those are the ones we've looked at so far, you know. These are the days that the gift bringers come and bring gifts. St. Martin's Day we saw was one. Possibly you might get gifts then from St. Martin or from Peltzmertel. You might get gifts from St. Nicholas on the 6th, 5th or 6th. And then, of course, Christmas, whether it's Santa Claus or somebody else. But in some countries, New Year's. This is especially true in the East Slavic countries that were formerly part of the Soviet Union, or the communist bloc countries that were under the control of the Soviets following World War II, right? So we've got, these were Soviet Union states here, and then these countries in the lighter red were under Soviet control. And so a lot of these countries, during and even since the communist regime, New Year's is often the big gift-giving day. And here's why. Relatively little is known about the pagan Slavic religion before Vladimir the Great instituted Eastern Orthodox Christianity as the official religion of Russia in 987 CE. We know the names of some of the gods, we know what some of them did, but we don't have a big comprehensive, mythology like we do for certainly like the Greco-Romans or the Norse, we have very little. But it does seem that there was a pre-Christian winter solstice festival known as Kolyada, represented by this goddess here on this little ornament, that did eventually, after the Christianization of Russia, transition into being the spirit of Christmas, and was possibly one of the original seasonal gift bringers, possibly by about the 19th century. We do know that by that time, in a St. Lucy-esque tradition, young women would dress up in white robes like this, dress as Kolyada. They would ride a sleigh from house to house. They would lead groups of people in carols called kolyadki. However, by the days leading up to the Communist Revolution in Russia, it seems the most popular gift bringers were not Kolyada, but rather St. Nicholas, of whom you may have heard. However, St. Nicholas is enormously popular in Russia as a saint, but not so much as a popular gift bringer for children. But as a religious thing, incredibly popular. And then also Babushka, which means grandmother. She's pretty much just a Russian version of La Befana, who we will talk about later. Her backstory is even the same, but it seems that Saint Nicholas and Babushka were the common gift bringers in the by the early 20th century in Russia. However, following the Russian Revolution, the Soviet Union was officially a secular state, and there was a forced conversion for all citizens to state atheism. Consequently, Christmas traditions were seen as both religious and bourgeois, and so they were eliminated. But, as we've seen over the course of this series, others, like Martin Luther, Oliver Cromwell, Adolf Hitler, they learned the lesson that you can't keep Christmas down, you can't keep Santa down, you can't keep the winter gift bringers down. They will rise again. And Stalin learned that lesson as well. You can't keep it down. Sometimes the best you can do is nudge it, form it, shape it a little bit. And that's what happened. Religious Christmas traditions in the Soviet Union and in the Soviet countries became secular New Year's celebrations. The Christmas tree became the New Year's tree, but it looks the same. If you saw a photo of a Russian New Year's tree, you would go, that's a Christmas tree. St. Nicholas was replaced with Ded Moroz, Grandfather Frost, who was a modern reworking of an older Slavic figure who was known as Morozko, which kind of means frosty, kind of. In his earliest depictions in Slavic mythology, he was a sinister winter warlock kind of guy who would freeze the water into giant ice chains in order to cut off the water supply from people. He would kidnap children and ransom them in exchange for gifts and that kind of stuff. However, by the 19th century, he had become a softer, more kind of grandfatherly figure who would reward the good and punish the wicked, which was reflected in a popular fairy tale called Ded Moroz, Father Frost, Grandfather Frost, that was adapted into, seen here, this 1964 fantasy film called Morozko, in the U.S., known variously as Jack Frost or Father Frost. There was a Mystery Science Theater 3000 episode about it. In my opinion, you don't need people making jokes because this movie is incredibly fun. I watch it all the time, actually. It's public domain, so it's up on YouTube. It's really fun stuff. Anyway, this kindlier, more grandfatherly version of Ded Moroz is the one who got revived when winter celebrations were allowed to resume in 1935. He was given a granddaughter, you can see here in the nice blue coat here, in the form of Snegurotchka, the Snow Maiden, who was a popular character from both fairy tale and opera. There was a famous, I want to say Rimsky-Korsakov opera. That might be wrong. Don't correct me. I'm acknowledging that I might be wrong. It's a story about how she's the daughter of Father Frost and Vesna Krasa, Spring Beauty, and she falls in love with a human boy and she wants to become human, and her heart melts. There's the whole thing. It's very tragic. Anyway, she's now Ded Moroz's granddaughter and his helper and assistant. Together, they live in the town of Veliki Ustyug, and they deliver presents to children on New Year's Eve. Although you can see here, you look at him, Ded Moroz does look a lot like Santa in a lot of ways. There are some differences. Often he has blue or sometimes even white robes, although red is also very common. The robes usually are full length rather than cut short like Santa's usually are. Commonly he has a staff, this kind of like magic staff here that usually has like a snowflake, or you can see there's like icicles here at the top. And also he doesn't ride in a sleigh, he rides in a troika, which is, it's like a sleigh, but it's pulled by 3 horses instead of reindeer. And also he comes in person to kids at New Year's parties instead of coming while they're sleeping. Ded Moroz and Snegorochka, they're both known by regional variations on that name, place to place. But they're all, since most of them are Slavic languages, they're typically similar to the Russian. So in Ukrainian, it's Ded Moroz instead of Ded Moroz, right? Okay, you got it. But he is, or at one time was, the primary gift bringer not only in Russia, but also Belarus, Ukraine, Serbia, Bulgaria, Slovenia, Macedonia, Croatia, Azerbaijan, and Tajikistan. He was, for a while, the guy in Romania. After the communists gained control over Romania in 1948, they replaced the traditional Father Christmas, Moș Crăciun, with Moș Jarila, Father Frost, who was kind of a Soviet propaganda piece, right? And you can see that in this actual Soviet propaganda piece, where the buff and brawny Soviet Moș Jarila is removing the old guise of the old frail Moș Crăciun. Father Christmas wins in the end, though, because the Romanians ditched Jarila in favor of Moș Crăciun after the Romanian Revolution in 1989. And so they're back to Father Christmas. Ded Moroz is, however, not the only gift bringer in Russia. Russia is a huge country with a large number of ethnic groups inside of it, many of which have their own winter gift bringers. So Russia's largest region, the Sakha Republic in Siberia, is the home to Chis Khan. You can see here, the Lord of the Cold, whose two horns, one of them is supposed to be a bull's horn and the other is supposed to be a mammoth tusk. Every year he comes down from the Arctic Ocean with his granddaughter Karkhana to bring the cold to Russia. He is obviously extremely cool. Let's see. Some of these I am not going to say right. Some of them I have probably said wrong already, and I apologize. I'm doing my best. I can't hug every cat. I can't speak every language. Sorry, everyone. Eche Deal is another Siberian gift bringer, delivers presents on the back of a bull, and he has a hat that makes him invisible. He's supposed to be Snegorochka's other grandfather on the other side, I guess. And then, let's see, there's Sagan Ubugul, the White Elder is what that means. He comes from the Buddhist Republic of Buryatia, and carries a dragon-headed staff. You can see there, little dragon. He comes not at New Year's, not on January 1st, but later in January or February, because Buryatia uses the lunar calendar. So he comes a little bit later. He gives children gifts of candles and sweets and invites everyone to visit him at Lake Baikal. Let's see, Suk Airi, this guy here. He's the gift bringer of Tuva, whose limbs are made of ice, and he can fly over rooftops under his own power. He doesn't even need reindeer. And he's sometimes accompanied by Tugini Inikin, seen here, Mother Winter. There she is. Kushbaibai, who looks basically like Ded Moroz, and this is Karkizi, she looks basically like Snegorochka. He's the gift bringer in the largely Muslim western regions of Siberia. He comes with his own Snow Maiden, yep, Karkizi, as well as other figures who accompany him, including the golden-haired Altenchech. That can't be right. Altenchech. I don't know. She's a female warrior. Tahir and Zuhra, who are a Romeo and Juliet style romantic couple, presumably tragic by making that comparison, I guess. And then Shaitan, sounds like Satan, means Satan, the embodiment of evil, and Batir, a strong man. So a lot of cool dudes hanging out with these guys. Yamal Iri is relative relative newcomer to the gift-bringing game. He started bringing gifts to the Yamalo-Nenets Autonomous Region in northern Siberia, starting around 2007. He lives in the Arctic. He's pulled on a reindeer sleigh. He's kind of got a whole reindeer theme going on. He carries this magic drum that's made from reindeer skin that's supposed to drive away evil. And he wears clothes made from reindeer skins, and his belt and boots and things are decorated with woolly mammoth bones. No European or American gift bringers have mammoth bones as part of their ensemble, so Russia might have us on this one. Sorry, gang. Anyway, if we were to move drastically away from the Arctic cold of Siberia to the balmy air of Mediterranean Greece, we would encounter another New Year's gift bringer. Even though St. Nicholas is enormously popular in Greece, again, as a saint and a religious figure, he's not the one who brings toys to kids in the winter. Instead, they get visited by this dude, St. Basil the Great, whose feast day is January 1st. So Basil was a historical saint and roughly a contemporary of St. Nicholas, a little younger. He would have been born before Nicholas's death, although he was part of the Council of Nicaea as well. He was one of the most influential theologians of the early church, earned himself the nickname Uranofantor, the revealer of the mysteries of heaven. He is, however, also incredibly famous for his generosity and compassion for the poor and underprivileged, which makes him the perfect choice to be a gift bringer. According to one famous legend, the pagan Roman Emperor Julian, known as Julian the Apostate because he was the first non-Christian Roman emperor after a short string of Christian emperors who wanted to return to the former state religion of Rome. And according to this legend, he threatened to crush the people of Caesarea, which is where Basil was from, with a huge army due to an argument he had with Basil. The story is that the two of them grew up together. The poor people of Caesarea knew they were in great danger, so they amassed all of their gold, jewels, and other precious possessions in order to present them to the Roman emperor as a gift in a hope to dissuade him from crushing them. And however, Basil went to present these treasures to the emperor's messenger. His harsh words, as well as the willingness of the already destitute people of Caesarea to sacrifice everything that they had, greatly embarrassed the messenger, and so he left without collecting the payment. And then, according to legend, Julian shortly died in battle later. So, with one piece of treasure from every person in the town that was supposed to be payment, with that going uncollected, Basil found himself surrounded by piles of gold and jewels with no idea of what belonged to who, right? And he's like, how am I going to return this to everyone? So his solution was this, and this is the kind of solution that only a saint can come up with. He had each piece of treasure baked into a pie, and then he distributed the pies to the people of Caesarea, and every person, when they cut into the pie, what they found inside was, miraculously, the exact treasure that they had contributed to the pile. This legend is commemorated. This miracle is reenacted in Greece for St. Basil's Day when a Vasilopida, which literally means a Basil's pie, but if you see in this picture, looks more like bread or cake, because it is. But it is baked with a coin inside, and slices are cut for everyone present, plus extra slices for Christ, the Virgin Mary, St. Basil, the church, the house, the traveler, the visitor, the poor, the Kalakansaroi, who we talked about last week. Whoever gets the piece with the coin receives a special blessing or a gift. Every January 1st, St. Basil is said to travel the Hellenic world, touching dead branches with his staff, causing them to grow again, distributing presents to children all over Greece. And you can see in this children's book here, St. Basil and the Magic Box. he pretty much just looks like Santa Claus as a gift bringer, which, in my opinion, is a huge bummer. But yeah, if you were to go to Instagram and look for St. Basil, look for Ios Vasilis, you would find it would just be Santa Claus looking pictures, unfortunately. However, besides distributing presents to children all over Greece, he gives the greatest present of all, wisdom. A famous quote attributed to Basil says, "A tree is known by its fruit, a man by his deeds. A good deed is never lost. He who sows courtesy reaps friendship, and he who plants kindness gathers love." I like it. Good dude, Basil. All right. Other gift bringers on January 1st include the various New Year's gift givers of Canada's maritime provinces, seen here: New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island. Each of these provinces has a tradition of receiving additional treats after Christmas on New Year's Eve or day, with many different gift bringers associated with the days in the different parts of the different provinces. So, for example, in New Brunswick, the village of McAdam has New Year's gifts brought by someone named Sheila, or did. Some of these are probably a little bit archaic, but there's probably some families that hang on to this. The village of Tidehead has someone called Johnny New Year. Charlottetown, which is big enough to be on the map here, the capital of Prince Edward Island, gifts are brought by, or were, this one seems like it's probably not so common anymore, but Little Nose and Jennifer Duck. Those were characters from a once popular radio show called Sleepytown Express. They had very popular Christmas episodes, so I assume that is where that association came about. On an island called Campobello Island, which actually not sure where that is on this map. The gift bringer is named Mother Goody, also known as Aunt Nancy or Mother New Year. Kids leave out their stockings on the mantle on New Year's Eve, and they awake to find it filled with small toys, candy, fruit, or nuts. This one I know is still going, but it is very difficult to find any information about any of these maritime gift bringers. There's practically nothing online. If you know, give me a shout. Anyway, once New Year's is done, the next big day, the final day of the Christmas season, is Epiphany, January 6th. Marks the end of the 12 days of Christmas, the end of the Christmas season. In some countries, it kicks off the carnival season, which leads up to Lent, which has its own set of weird old traditions, which are maintained in places like Italy, Brazil, and, of course, New Orleans. Epiphany, which means appearance or manifestation, commemorates the presentation of the infant Jesus to the Magi, seen here, also known as the Wise Men or the Three Kings. In the Spanish-speaking parts of the world, Epiphany or Three Kings Day, Dia de los Reyes, or Los Tres Reyes Magos, Three Kings Day, often the primary gift-giving holiday. Typically, a country either has a big St. Nicholas Day tradition or a big Epiphany tradition, rarely both. It's usually one or the other. And typically, Northern Europe went with St. Nick, right? So we saw St. Nicholas is big in Germany, parts of France, Central Europe, the Low Countries, right? Whereas Spain, Italy, Southern Europe, Epiphany is what they went with that version. In Spain, Argentina, Mexico, Paraguay, Uruguay, children send letters to Los Tres Reyes Magos, who then bring presents for them on the night of January 5th. The children set out hay and water for the king's camels, and they say that the camels only eat one night a year, and it is Epiphany Eve, so they're very hungry. Please set some food out for them. Then, on the day of Epiphany itself, there's a large parade where the kings and their servants throw candy to the kids, usually riding on camels, like in this picture, or horses, like in this picture. However, while the Bible doesn't give the names of the Magi, or say that there were three of them, or even say that they were kings, the tradition has arisen that there was one king for each gift given to the baby Jesus, you probably know, gold, frankincense, and myrrh, right? And so, of course, traditions have risen about those guys. And they say that each one came from a different land, and so and that each one was a different age and all that kind of stuff. And those things are super regional. They change from place to place. Each one has many, many variations on the name, but the most common ones are that Caspar is the king with the gold. He's from Asia. Melchior with the frankincense is from Europe. And Balthazar with the myrrh is from Africa. And yes, you might be wondering, since this is a European Christmas tradition and there is an explicitly black king, is there an issue with blackface? The answer is yes. Just like Zwarte Piet, there is a big controversy over blackface Balthazars. I tried not to use any in this video, but it's actually harder to find real black Balthazars than blackface Balthazars. Anyway, like I said, the names and the details about them vary from place to place, but Caspar, Melchior, Balthazar, those are the most common versions. Another common Epiphany tradition in these same places is the Roscon de Reyes, a ring-shaped cake with either a dry bean or a piece of hard candy or a plastic baby baked inside that represents the baby Jesus hiding from King Herod. And when the pieces are cut, whoever gets the piece with the baby inside gets like a special blessing. In some places, like that's traditional. You get a special blessing, you keep the baby, you have to take the baby to church on Candlemas to represent the presentation of Jesus at the temple on February 2nd. But in other places, it's just like you get to wear a paper crown, you're king for the day, or whatever, some other similar tradition. If that to you sounds a lot like the Mardi Gras tradition of king cake, you are correct. It is the same. Who did you think the king in king cake was? It's the three kings. It's the same. It's the same tradition. It's the same thing. Because Mardi Gras is the end of the Epiphany season, you see, right? Epiphany season, Carnival, Mardi Gras, then Lent. You can put these pieces together. You're smart. If you've watched 32 minutes into this video, you've been paying attention. You got it. You're good. Anyway, once we go to Central Europe, I mean, they still celebrate Epiphany. It's just not the gift-bringing holiday. And the primary Epiphany tradition in Central Europe is the practice of chalking the doors with the initials of the Magi. You can see here, usually C, M, B, sometimes K, because in German, Caspar would be spelled with a K, and then usually the numbers from the year split up like this. So you can see this is 2019. But yeah, with the crosses in between them. So this obviously stands for the names of the three kings, but they also say that it stands for Christus mansionem benedicat, which means may Christ bless this house. When it's a K, it might stand for Kyrios, which means the Lord. May the Lord bless this house. These markings are usually made on the door by groups of children dressed as the Magi. Again, I had to look to find a real black Balthazar, but we found one. They go to the doors, they chalk it. These groups are called Sternsinger, which means star singers. They have a decorative star, usually made of wood and attached to like a broom handle. They don't always all dress like kings. There would be other ones dressed like angels, other figures, other seasonal and biblical figures, and they go from house to house. This one looks like they're taking donations for who knows what, but they go along, they sing carols, and they chalk up your door for a blessing, for a good luck. In much of Italy, Epiphany is also the main gift-giving holiday, but the Magi aren't the ones bringing the presents. Instead, it is the good witch, La Befana, who rides her broomstick around town, slides down the chimney to fill kids' stockings with candy, and presents if they have been good, and coal, or garlic and onions if they have been bad. Traditionally, families will leave out a little bit of food and a small glass of wine for Befana. The legend says that Befana, whose name derives from the word Epiphania, meaning Epiphany, was visited by the three kings as they were traveling to see the Christ child. She was a good host to them, and they invited her to go along, but she declined, saying she had too much sweeping and other housework to do. However, later she changed her mind and she went to go find the Magi, couldn't find them. She left nonetheless with gifts for the Christ child, and has since been traveling the world looking for the baby Jesus and rewarding any good child that she comes across in her search. Because she's an old woman with a broom, she kind of eventually just straight up became a witch, and then she flies around and stuff. This is the same story and deal for Babushka, the 19th century Russian gift giver, and also a South American gift giver known as La Vieja Belén, which means the old woman from Bethlehem. Same deal, same story, basically the same figure. Befana is hugely popular in Italy, a national icon, and can be seen at huge Christmas markets and festivals throughout the country where people dress like Befana, like you can see here in this not particularly great mask. They're not always masks. A lot of times there's makeup and stuff involved, but they appear, they dance usually at the bigger markets in the bigger cities. There might be hundreds of Befanas throughout. And they dance, they juggle, they do tricks to amuse kids. Obviously, looks like maybe they make balloon animals and stuff, or maybe these kids are doing that. I don't know what's going on. But a very common modern tradition is that every child receives from Befana a lump of coal like this, but the coal is actually black rock candy, with the idea that you get coal, but it's a treat because every kid is a little bit good and a little bit bad. One last Italian tradition for Epiphany. In the Alpine Valley of Val Camonica, every year on January 5th, they capture this wild furry beast, here again rendered by my friend Tracy Shepard. This is the Battleisk. The Battleisk spends most of the year making trouble for villagers in the woods, but on January 5th, a very strange hunting party made up of shepherds, hunchbacks, witches, and so on go out to capture him in a prolonged duel, at which point he is tied up and led into the town in a noisy procession of musicians and various masked characters. And once he's been led to the village square, this is it's a thing, right? So this is the costume. Here it is. A real person in this costume is led by people in other different costumes. Lead him to the village square, where he presents a speech that he has written because he does not speak, that is read aloud by an interpreter. This speech takes the form of a poem that humorously reveals all the secret sins, gossips, scandals, and so on from within the village. Everyone has a good laugh at everyone else's shortcomings. After that, everybody sings, dances, and eats a special Epiphany Battleisk polenta and a special Battleisk salami, including the Battleisk himself, who is the guest of honor at this feast, even though he has to be tied down to stop himself from making trouble. After that, he's set free back into the woods again, only to do it again the next year. In Brazil, Epiphany is celebrated as the Folia de Reis, which in big cities includes a large festival and parade, including not only the three kings, but also various dancing clowns that might also be werewolves that are supposed to represent Herod's soldiers. You got musicians, flag bearers. You've got a bunch of different groups. Each group has their own little thing going on, right? And so they're represented by their standard bearer here. And then within that, yeah, you've got dancers and clowns, stuff like that, right? There's more to be said on this, but in short, this colorful costume celebration, it's a nice transition into the carnival season, a much bigger colorful costume celebration. So, yeah, in most places, Epiphany marks the end of the Christmas season. It's time to take your decorations down. However, in some countries, the time for the season to end is Candlemas, February 2nd. That day is the 40th day of the Christmas Epiphany season. It commemorates the presentation of the baby Jesus at the temple. It's called Candlemas because it is the day that you bring your candles to church to be blessed by a priest for you to use for the rest of the year. And so if you're someone like me who holds on to Christmas as long as you can, it is the absolute end of Christmas. It is considered bad luck to keep your Christmas decorations up past February 2nd. Obviously, in America, you start getting unsavory looks if you keep yours up past January 1st. For us, Christmas is over December 26th. So move on to the next thing now, please. But February 2nd, that's it. That's the end. So even if, like me, you're Martinmas to Candlemas, this is Candlemas. It's the end. You got to get ready for it's carnival time now. It's carnival. Then it's going to be Lent. The sun is coming up. We don't need these winter celebrations anymore. And as it's the end of Christmas, this is the end of the video series, at least for now. I don't know. If people want specific topics that I haven't covered, or they want me to expand on a particular thing that I mentioned in passing, I can do that if these get enough views, if people care. But, because there definitely are plenty of other things that we didn't cover, plenty of gift bringers that I didn't get a chance to talk about, like the good fairy, Tante Ari, in a very specific region of France, the gentle camel of Jesus, and the mule, both related to the three kings. From Christians in the Middle East. We've mostly focused on Europe so much, but there's those. We did cover most of the gift bringers. I think we covered everyone on this map. Look at this map for gift bringers of Europe. You can see we talked about Father Christmas, the different Father Christmas, Christkindl here in green. We talked about the Yule Nissen, the Yule Tomten, Joulupuki. We talked about all the different variations on Ded Moroz, who's down in here. We talked about St. Basil. There he is right there. We actually talked about more than are even on this map. It does have Cagatillo right here. It does have Olencero. It's got a Palpador. Doesn't have Anguleru. Doesn't have Asteru. So we definitely have done some more than are even on this map. And I didn't talk about Childermas at all, the Feast of the Holy Innocents. Kind of skipped that one a little bit. Maybe that's a potential topic for a future video, but you got a good start. I think you guys got it. I think you got the idea. As the nights continue to grow long and dark, just remember, to sum this up, remember the words of this Elizabethan Christmas carol to recall that why we, as a species, do these weird, wild, spooky, often crazy, funny things that sometimes seem not to make any sense at this time of year. All hail to the days that merit more praise than all of the rest of the year, and welcome the nights that double delights as well for the poor as the peer. Good fortune attend each merry man's friend that doth but the best that he may, forgetting old wrongs with carols and songs to drive the cold winter away. When Christmastide comes in like a bride, with holly and ivy clad, 12 days in the year, much mirth and good cheer in every household is had. The country guise is then to devise some gambols of Christmas play, whereat the young men do the best that they can to drive the cold winter away. When white-bearded frost has threatened his worst, and fallen from branch and briar, when time away calls from husbandry halls, and from the good countryman's fire, together to go, to plough and to sow, to get us both food and array, and thus with content the time we have spent to drive the cold winter away. Merry Christmas to everyone who's listening. Joy to those who want it. Peace to those who need it. Love and human kindness to each and every one.